From far across the dry land, Elias noticed the door of an old shack slamming back and forth in the wind. It caught his eye because an open door like that could spark a wildfire if lightning struck. He guided his horse closer, planning to tie it shut and leave. But the moment he pushed the door open, a heavy smell rolled out and stopped him cold. Rot, old blood, and something worse filled the air. Inside the shack, in the far corner, sat an Apache woman slumped against the wall. At first glance, she looked dead. Her eyes were open but dull, staring at nothing. Her thin legs were tied tightly with a worn rope, the skin bruised and infected. In front of her was an empty bowl, dry for days, maybe longer. Elias stood still, his chest tight. Then he heard it. A faint wheeze. The woman was still alive. She shifted slightly as his shadow fell over her. Slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes were black and deep, filled with fear, but also with something heavier. It was resignation, like she had already accepted the end. "Do you still want to live?" Elias asked. His voice was rough, shaped by years of dust and silence. She did not answer. She only blinked once. That was enough. Elias pulled out his knife and cut the rope from her legs. Her body was so light when he lifted her that it shocked him. She felt like dry wood, but her arms and shoulders told another story. This woman had once been strong, a fighter. "Let's go," he said quietly as he placed her on the saddle. "If you die here, no one will ever know." The wind kicked up dust as he rode toward his ranch. Behind them, the old shack leaned in silence, holding its secrets. When they reached the cabin, Elias carried her inside. The room was small and simple. Evening light slipped through the cracks in the wood, stretching their shadows across the floor. He laid her on the narrow bed and pulled a blanket up to her chest. She did not resist. Her hands stayed clenched around a small piece of leather, held like a lifeline. Elias lit the fire and made thin cornmeal porridge. The weak smell filled the room. Tea set the bowl on the table, sat down, and waited. He said nothing. After a long time, the woman slowly pushed herself up. Her arms shook with effort. She reached for the bowl and drank in careful sips, never taking her eyes off him. She watched him like a wounded animal watching a stranger. "You are not going to die?" Elias said quietly. "Not tonight." She did not reply. When the bowl was empty, she pulled the leather back to her chest. Later, Elias brought a bucket of warm water and a clean cloth. "Wash up," he said. She hesitated, then wiped the dried blood from her face. Beneath the dirt were sharp features and tired but strong eyes. This was no weak soul. This was a warrior who had been broken. Night fell. The wind whispered through the walls. An owl called in the distance. Elias slept on a bench, his gun close. The woman did not sleep. She sat against the wall, eyes fixed on the window, body tense at every sound. "No one is coming for you," Elias said into the dark. "You are safe here." Only the wind answered. Near midnight, he heard her cough. He brought her water. As she drank, she whispered her first word. "Thank you." Morning came with golden light. Elias stepped outside, letting fresh air clear. The cabin, when he returned, the woman was still awake, but her eyes no longer held panic. "You cannot stay in bed forever," he said. By noon, the sound of sawing filled the yard. Elias returned, carrying a wooden frame fixed to old wagon wheels. "Try this," he said. She stared at it, unsure. He helped her into the chair. It creaked, but held. He placed her hands on the wheels. "Push," she tried. The chair moved only. A little, but it moved. For the first time, a faint smile crossed her face. That afternoon, she practiced outside. The ground was rough, but she forced the wheels forward again and again. Elias watched, saying nothing. When she reached the water, Trough, a gray horse, stepped close. She stroked its mane gently. In her eyes, Elias saw something return. Freedom, even if just a small piece. That evening, she left the leather on the table instead of clutching it. Tomorrow, Elias said, "You can help me with the fence." She looked at him, then nodded. Rain came suddenly, pounding the roof. The fire burned bright. Elias broke the silence. "Do you have a name?" She nodded. "Tina," she said softly. "My father named me. It means one who stands firm." Her voice shook as she continued. "After my legs failed, they called me a burden. They left me to die." Elias listened. Then he spoke. "I lost my wife, then my son. I stayed here to forget." Silence filled the room, but it was not empty. "I thought no man would ever take me in unless to hurt me," Tina said. Elias leaned forward. "I do not need a slave. I just need you to live." Lightning flashed. Tina laughed softly. A real laugh. That night, the cabin did not feel like a hiding place. It felt like shelter. Morning broke, calm and clear, but the air around the ranch felt tight, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Elias was already outside when the sun lifted over the hills, fixing a loose fence post. The steady sound of his hammer echoed. Across the yard, Tina wheeled herself out onto the porch, the wooden wheels creaking softly. The leather piece still rested on the table inside. She had not picked it up again. She watched Elias work for a long moment, studying the way he moved. Every action was careful, practiced, shaped by years of doing things alone. When he noticed her, he nodded once, as if it was normal for her to be there now. "You can hand me the nails," he said. Tina rolled closer, holding out the small bucket. Her hands brushed for a brief second. Neither of them spoke, but both felt it. It was not fear. It was something new and uncertain. They worked like that through the morning. Elias drove the posts. Tina passed nails, steady and focused. The sun climbed higher, warming the dirt and wood. Sweat gathered at Tina's temple, but she did not stop. She refused to be sent back inside. By midday, the fence stood straight and strong. Elias stepped back and looked at it with quiet approval. Tina leaned in her chair, breathing hard, but her eyes shone with pride. "That will hold," Elias said. Tina nodded. "So will I." He almost smiled. The peace did not last. In the early afternoon, dust rose on the far road. Tina noticed it first. A single rider slowed as he neared the ranch, his eyes sharp and curious. He stopped, staring at her like she was something out of place. "Well now," the man said, his voice thick with mockery. "What do we have here?" Tina lifted her chin. "Move along." The man laughed. "A cripple telling me what to do." Before Tina could answer, footsteps sounded behind her. Elias stood there, his rifle resting easy on his shoulder. He did not raise it. He did not need to. "You lost?" Elias asked calmly. The rider's smile faded. He spat into the dirt and kicked his horse forward, riding off without another word. When he was gone, Tina spoke quietly. "You did not have to step in." "I know," Elias said, "but I did." That night, the wind returned, whispering through the grass. Elias checked the windows and the door before sitting near the fire. Tina sat across from him, turning the leather piece slowly in her hands. "What is it?" Elias asked. She hesitated, then placed it on the table. "From my father's armor," she said. "I held it so I would remember who I was." "You still are," Elias replied. She looked up at him then, really looked. Her voice trembled. "You are the first man who did not hurt me." The words settled between them, heavy and true. Days passed. They fell into a quiet rhythm. Tina worked beside Elias when she could. He built her a lower table so she could fix tack and sort tools. At night, they shared simple meals by the fire. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they did not. The silence no longer felt empty. Then the trouble came. Late. One afternoon, a group of riders appeared, kicking up red dust. Leading them was Foreman, the man who ran the town council. He stopped at the gate, his eyes cold. "Ward," he called. "We heard you're hiding an Apache woman out here." Elias stepped forward. "She's my guest," Foreman sneered. "Apaches aren't welcome, especially not crippled ones. Folks are saying cattle went missing last night. Funny timing." Tina rolled out beside Elias. "I warned no one," she said firmly. Foreman laughed. "You've got until moonrise to leave, or we will drag you out." Elias's hand rested on his gun. "Anyone who crosses that fence will not walk back." The men exchanged looks. Foreman spat and turned his horse. "You chose your side." As they rode away, Tina's hands tightened on her wheels. "They will come back," Elias nodded. "I know." That evening, they prepared. Elias checked every bullet. Tina sharpened a short blade, her movements calm and steady. They did not speak much. Words were not needed. Night fell heavy and dark. The wind died. Even the insects went quiet. Then came the sound of hooves. Torches flared around the cabin. Voices shouted. A gun fired into the air. "Bring her out," Foreman yelled. "Last chance." Elias stepped onto the porch. "Go home!" Gunfire exploded. Elias dove for cover and returned fire, forcing the men back. Tina crawled from the cabin, sliding ammunition toward him. "I am not leaving," she said. The fight was fast and violent. A bullet grazed Elias's shoulder. Blood soaked his shirt, but he stayed standing. Finally, Foreman raised his hand. "Enough," he snarled. "This isn't over." They rode off, leaving silence behind. Tina wrapped Elias's wound with shaking. "Hans, you kept your word." "So did you," Elias replied as dawn broke. They sat together on the porch, watching the land wake. The ranch still stood. So did they. For the first time, Tina believed this place might truly be home. The sun rose slow and quiet over the ranch, as if the land itself was tired from the night before. Smoke still clung faintly to the air. Elias sat on the porch bench, his shoulder wrapped tight, his face pale but steady. Tina wheeled out beside him and stopped close enough that their arms almost touched. Neither of them spoke at first. They listened to the cattle moving in the distance and the soft sound of the wind returning to the grass. "They will not stop," Tina said at last. Her voice was calm, but her hands rested firm on the wheels. "Men like that never do." Elias nodded. "I know." She looked at him then, searching his face. "You can still send me away, before more blood is spilled." Elias turned toward. Her fully gray eyes were tired, but there was no doubt in them. "If you leave, I go back to being a man waiting to die. If you stay, I have a reason to stand." Tina swallowed hard. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she reached out and placed her hand over his. "I am not running anymore," she said. "This is my home too." That day, they worked slowly. Elias rested when he needed to. Tina took on more tasks, sorting tools, mending straps, feeding the chickens from her chair. Every small act felt like a claim on the land, a quiet promise that she belonged. Word spread fast in town. Some riders passed the ranch and did not stop. Others slowed, watching from a distance. No one crossed the fence. 3 days later, trouble returned. Just before dusk, a single rider approached. It was Foreman again, alone this time. He stopped outside the gate, his horse restless beneath him. "I came to talk," he said. Elias stepped forward, rifle in hand, but lowered. Tina stayed just behind him, her knife tucked at her side. Foreman looked between them. Town does not want another fight, but they want her gone. She stays, Elias said. Foreman sighed, rubbing his jaw. Up. You protect her and every eye. We'll be on this land. You ready for that? Elias did not hesitate. Yes. Foreman studied Tina, really looked at her for the first time. He saw the straight back, the steady gaze, the woman who did not bow. She has fire, he muttered. Then he shook his head. This world is changing. Maybe not fast enough. He turned his horse. I will keep the others away. For now. When he rode off, Tina released a breath she had been holding for days. That night, the cabin felt warmer than ever. Elias added wood to the fire. Tina let her hair down, thick and dark, falling around her shoulders. The leather piece lay forgotten on the table. Elias poured a small cup of whiskey and slid it toward her. For courage, he said. She took a sip, then set it aside. I already have that. They sat close, the firelight painting soft shadows. On the walls, Tina looked at him, her voice low. Why me? Elias thought for a moment. Because when I saw you, I saw someone who refused to disappear. And I knew I did not want to disappear either. Tina reached out and touched his cheek, gentle and sure. This time, when they kissed, there was no fear in it. Only warmth, only choice. Days turned into weeks. The ranch healed. So did they. Tina learned every corner of the land. Elias built ramps and wider paths without being asked. She helped plan the work, managed supplies, watched the cattle like a hawk. The men who passed by began to nod instead of sneer. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky gold, Elias sat beside Tina on the porch. You know, he said, this place feels alive again. Tina smiled. A real smile. So do I. She reached for the leather piece one last time, turned it in her hands, then placed it inside a small box and closed the lid. She did not need it anymore. That night, as they lay listening to the quiet land, Tina whispered, You were the first man who did not hurt me. Elias answered just as softly. And you were the first reason I stayed. Outside, the wind moved gently through the grass. The ranch stood firm under the stars. Two broken lives once left behind had found each other and chosen to remain, not because the world was kind, but because they were.